Today also we are very lucky to have Venerable Nirodha here and also Venerable Upeka with us here at the Vihara in Lumia. And I have suggested on the WhatsApp group that we will continue on the theme that we started on feelings last week. And my proposed topic was how to deal with painful feelings. So today the focus is mainly on the recent painful bodily feelings. We may touch on painful mental feelings, but there have been many previous Dhamma talks on these subjects again and again. But here I'm mainly going to speak from the suttas and how the Buddha described these things. Now, one of the things to mention is, or ask a question is, do you think that the Buddha had any painful physical feelings? Did he experience pain? So the answer to that question, if you have read the suttas, is absolutely, yeah. You can see the Buddha and the Arahants from time to time, they got very sick. And those times, they did not have antibiotics and antivirals and all of those very sophisticated modern medical systems. But they did have doctors and some medicine available, but it was different. So if you read sometimes in the suttas, unfortunately, I don't have such a sutta in front of me, but another time maybe I can read. The Buddha describes how he was feeling when he had really severe sickness. He's described as, or also the Arahants described as if there was like a rope tied around his head and two strong men pulling it on either side. And how would you feel? Like your head and the skull is about to split into halves. Yeah, that's how painful the headache was. And he says it was as if the tummy has been cut open by a sharp knife. That was the kind of a painful feeling that I was experiencing in the tummy, or as if the whole body was burning. So this is a way that they were describing. So you can see they had incredible pain. And also, it is not that they just stayed without doing anything. The Buddha did have a doctor. He, in fact, had the best doctor in town called Jivaka. This also comes up in the suttas. And Jivaka was one of the top doctors at the time. In fact, he studied at the best medical university at the time called Taxila, right? He was at Taxila. Yeah, Taxila. And it's interesting. So he studied for many, many years. And after a while, he decided, when am I graduating? It's been studying for a long time. So he asked his teacher, so when is my final test? Then the teacher says, okay, this is your final test. You can go around the entire area of Taxila, like a large area he described. And he said, and bring back any plants that are not useful for any medicine. Anything, all the plants that you can find that are not medicinal, I want you to collect. So Jivaka went in search, looking for all the plants, and he inspected everything that is there. So he was to bring back anything that is not useful, doesn't have a medical use. And then after a few days or many days, I don't remember exactly how long, he came back empty-handed. And the teacher asked, so what have you found? What are the non-medicinal plants? He said, every plant I could see around in the area, I could use them for something or the other. So that's how skilled he was. He knew the medicinal values of all the plants, how they can be used. So he was very, very smart and one of the best students. So he was the Buddha's doctor, and he was the one who treated the monks and the nuns at the time. So I'm saying this just to bust this myth, thinking that because you are a great meditator or because you are a monk or a nun doesn't mean that you have to endure pain and think that with your meditation you can fix everything. That's certainly not the case. And that's not certainly what the Buddha and the Arahants did. So by all means, if there is something that can be taken, some cure, some help, by all means, that's the first thing to do with the body, because it's cause and condition, right? So if there's something that can be done to help it, do it. So take a Panadol, put some anti-inflammatory cream, go for a massage, whatever you can do to ease off that pain, that is necessary. That's the most common sense first step. But of course, as we all know, we know no matter what we do, some things cannot be completely cured. You cannot come back into perfect ease with no, pain and discomfort. So, medicine and all these things is mainly to care for people. It doesn't necessarily cure everything, but it can help a bit. But how do we deal with the remaining difficulty? And at times, certain little pains, you don't need to do anything. Those things may subside. So these are for the mildly arisen pains, and for any remaining difficulties, how to deal with that, because you know what it is like when we have pain. So I'm now going to read out a sutta from, again, Vedanasamyutta, that is in the Connected Discourses, chapter 36, sutta number 4, called Bottomless Abyss. Wearing the right glasses? Yes. Okay, here it goes. Bhikkhus, when the uninstructed worldling makes the statement, in the great ocean there is a bottomless abyss, he makes such a statement about something that is non-existent and unreal. This bhikkhus is rather a designation for painful bodily feelings, that is bottomless abyss. When the uninstructed worldling is contacted by a painful bodily feeling, he sorrows, grieves, and laments. He weeps and beats his breast and becomes distraught. This is called an uninstructed worldling who has not arisen up in the bottomless abyss, one who has not gained a foothold. But bhikkhus, when the instructed noble disciple is contacted by a painful bodily feeling, he does not sorrow, grieve, or lament. He does not weep and beat his breast and become distraught. This is called an instructed noble disciple who has arisen up in the bottomless abyss, one who has gained a foothold. So that's a beautiful verse. One who cannot endure the arisen painful feelings, bodily feelings that sap one's life, who trembles when they touch him, a weakling of little strength, who weeps out loud and wails. He has not arisen up in the bottomless abyss, nor has he even gained a foothold. But one who is able to endure them, the arisen painful feelings, bodily feelings that sap one's life, who trembles not when they touch him, he has arisen up in the bottomless abyss, and he has also gained a foothold. So if you remember from last week, we also mentioned about the two arrows, didn't we? Yeah, we spoke about the two arrows. We also said, like, when there is a painful bodily feeling, an uninstructed worldling, that means somebody who does not yet know the Dhamma, or not yet practicing the path, or not yet achieved any levels of enlightenment, those people, they poke their painful feeling with a second arrow, another dart. Yeah, and that is the mental arrow. And that is that worry that comes up. Oh, I have this. Am I going to die? Am I going to lose my leg or whatever, that kind of thing. So that shock, that mind generates so much pain, and that mental feeling is what makes the recent physical feeling most unbearable. Yeah. So when we are able to, so enlightened being does not have that mental arrow. That is the distinction we spoke about last time. So that is why for uninstructed worldling, it's like the painful physical feelings is like a bottomless abyss. I'm sure you can relate to this. Each one of us have experienced this in our lives at some point in our lives, some kind of really severe pain in the body. And we may recall and remember how that felt like, yeah, and the physical feeling, but it was unbearable because of the mental arrow as well. But the difference here is an arahant does not have the second arrow. So that's a relief. But what do we do in the meantime while we are as yet unenlightened, right? So then I'm going to read another sutta as well, and we will discuss a few of those things at the end. First, let's get a few of the things that what the Buddha said. So this is in the same chapter, 36, sutta number 8, called the sick ward. A bhikkhu should await his time, mindful and clearly comprehending. This is our instruction to you. Bhikkhus, while a bhikkhu dwells thus, mindful and clearly comprehending, diligent, ardent, and resolute, if there arises in him a painful feeling, he understands thus: there has arisen in me a painful feeling. Now that is dependent, not independent. Dependent on what? Dependent on just this contact. But this contact is impermanent, conditioned, dependently arisen. So, when the painful feeling has arisen in dependence on a contact, that is impermanent, conditioned, dependently arisen. How could it be permanent? He dwells contemplating impermanence in contact and in the painful feeling. He dwells contemplating vanishing, contemplating fading away, contemplating cessation, contemplating relinquishment. As he dwells thus, the underlying tendency to aversion in regard to contact and in regard to painful feeling is abandoned in him. And I'm only talking about the painful feeling, but the Buddha talks about the pleasant and the neither painful nor pleasant feeling as well. All of them are to be treated in the same way, but because our topic is about the painful feeling, I will just do an extract. And at the end, the Buddha says, if he feels a painful feeling, he understands. With the breakup of the body, following the exhaustion of life, all that is felt, not being delighted in, will become cool right here. Quite beautiful statement, isn't it? This is saying sometimes some of these things, this is also the kind of pain that we are going to, each one of us are going to experience at the time of death. Yeah. Unless we are extremely lucky to have a silent heart attack if you are a diabetic, who might die a painless death maybe, I'm not sure. But often there is quite a bit of pain associated with death, especially if it is not a natural death as well. So we don't know whether it is death or not. Painful feelings come. So it is nice to remember how they arise. Last week also we discussed about this, that how contact brings up this painful feeling. But let's not dwell into the really severe pains just yet. Let's just reflect or bring up those feelings that we sometimes have when we sit for meditation, for example. I'm sure each one of us have experienced these problems, right? Because our bodies are constantly in discomfort, right? For most of us, there's all kinds of difficulties come up as we sit to meditate. But what happens sometimes when the pain level comes to a certain degree, we tend to get up and go, or we tend to do something about it. Of course, I mean, we have to judge at what point we need to do that, but sometimes we do it too quickly. So it is interesting sometimes to see whether when there is some discomfort, whether you are able to stay with it and see what happens. Because the Buddha says they are arisen, conditionally arisen, and all of those conditions are also impermanent. Yeah, they pass away. So whether this feeling is going to stay or pass away, because our general feeling is that it's going to stay. I'm never going to have a peaceful meditation. I might as well get up and go and try and meditate at a time when my body is perfect. It's very hard to find a time if you wait like that to find a perfectly a pain-free body. But sometimes it's interesting. In fact, a couple of days ago, in the morning, I was sitting, and as I was sitting, I had quite a sharp pain on my left hip. So I had those same feelings, thinking, oh, this sit is going to be a waste of time. I'm not going to become peaceful because it's quite painful. But something in the back of my mind was telling, also, it's a good time to sit. I felt inspired to want to sit. And I thought, never mind, it's okay. I'll just sit. Whichever way I'm going to be experiencing this pain because I know what it's like sometimes when these pains come. I might as well just sit and be with it. Just do what I say or what the Buddha says us to do. So I was just sitting there instead of rejecting it, just accepting it and allowing it to be. It was sort of not given prominence. I wasn't focusing on it. It was grabbing my attention because it was quite sharp. Yet I didn't allow it to really grab all of my attention. I allowed it to just fade into the foreground, background. Yeah, a little bit. And just stayed. So I was aware constantly that that's there. It felt like it's going to be there. But I was also aware of the rest of my body. I was aware of the brightness of the mind, the breath going in and out, the occasional thought coming in and going. So I was just hanging there in the present moment with the pain also in the background, just waiting, just allowing things to be, not wanting to get any deep meditation or wanting to achieve anything, just being there, simply okay, never mind, whatever. And I don't know how long I was staying, but there came a moment instantly, like 1 second the pain was there, the next second the pain just completely vanished. I'm sure each one of you may have experienced this. It's a shock every time when this happens because it feels like when it's there that it's all going to be there for a long, long time. And how it suddenly vanishes like that. It's an astonishing, right? It happens. And then I was with my mind contacting that area where I had pain, but I could not feel pain anymore. And after that, the whole body started to calm down and stay. And then I was able to stay with the breath and actually become a bit peaceful. So it was worthwhile. So I'm just saying this. I'm sure many of you have heard these kinds of stories, also have had your own experience. So it is nice. So you can try this at times because sometimes the tendency is to also just run away. or constantly try to do something. So we have to find that balance between when do we do something about it and when do we just wait and allow things to subside. So this is important. Otherwise, we are constantly restless, going between pain and restlessness. And that is not helpful. So this is when it comes to meditation. So that's a thing that I wanted to share. But there was also a nice example that the Buddha said. And this is what the Buddha said about, this is in the sutta number 7. I'm just reading an extract about this contact being impermanent. This is how the Buddha explains it. Just as bhikkhus, an oil lamp burns in dependence on the oil and the wick, and with the exhaustion of the oil and the wick, it is extinguished through lack of fuel. So too bhikkhus, when a bhikkhu feels feeling terminating with the body, terminating with life, he understands with the breakup of the body, following the exhaustion of life, all that is felt, not being delighted in, will become cool right here. So this is about the very lifelong pains, because this is also sometimes the case for people, right? Some people have chronic pain that they have to live for the rest of their life. So when somebody is diagnosed with something like that, it is incredibly painful mental feeling, right? To accept that, oh my goodness, for the rest of my life, I am going to have to live with this pain. And sometimes that can be quite strong pain. So this kind of reflection sometimes can be helpful to understand, well, what can you do? I mean, you do all the medication or the treatment, whatever you can do, but after all of that, there's still going to remain a certain amount that no medication or no treatment is going to do. So you will have to live with it. And how do you deal with that? Is by this understanding, this right view. So cultivating that right view beforehand, before the pain comes in, is going to be helpful, because what else do we have, right? Sometimes this is going to be our case. We might be left somewhere. We might have a fall when we go for a walk in the forest. And, and nobody might be able to hear us, see us, and we might die alone in pain. This can happen, right? You might have an accident somewhere where nobody's going to be there. And you're going to have to deal with that to the end of the life. But what use is there if you're going to die with a mind full of fear, full of anger, full of worry, full of inability to, accept this? This is going to be much more difficult, because that's going to affect where we are going to head with a defiled mind. But instead, we need to do whatever within our capacity to try to make peace with this. Now, some of you might get quite upset with me when I say these things, or when the Buddha says this. Oh my goodness, they have no idea what kind of pain I have, and this kind of reflection, I don't know how that is going to help me. But the thing is, as you develop your mind, as you develop your meditation, as you go stronger in your path, it is going to be possible, because the right view has incredible power to bring peace to your mind. Because as we said, the physical part of the pain is not all that bad. It is always that mental part that makes it unbearable. So as we are able to use right view, establish right view, grow in right view, and able to take care of that mental arrow, the remainder we are going to be able to deal with a bit better. So anyway, this is just for you to reflect, and if it is useful, you can use it. I'm not an expert in overcoming all pain. I have much pain myself, but I still find understanding that pain is not constant, even if it is a chronic pain. If you keep watching, you can see it has peaks. It has also, what do you call the opposite, the troughs. Yes. So, it's nice to see there is a little break. You can breathe a bit. You can have a bit of peace and it comes back again. So enjoy those breaks when the pain is not as intense. It does not ever remain at a constant. At also when the mind directs to other things, because pain is only felt when you are contacting them, making that contact, right? If it is a physical pain, when the contact with the physical area is there, that is when it is felt. Yes, when the pain is very strong, it grabs your attention again and again, and that is where you feel that there is pain. But I don't know in your life whether you have had any experience like this, but sometimes even if you've been having some kind of real sharp pain or chronic pain, something else has happened. Maybe somebody you really liked or loved died. And that mental pain of another kind really took over and grabbed your mind so much that at that point, you actually did not feel your physical pain. Or it could have been something even better, not something bad, but maybe you had some joys, you got some really good news, something nice happened to you. And when you paid attention to that at that time, your entire attention was in that good mental feeling that you could not feel the physical pain. It doesn't mean it wasn't there, whatever is causing was there, but your attention was not there. So that is where it's not constant, because our mind still jumps to other contacts and other impacts, takes our attention away, and then you have little breaks from it. So this is also where you can train yourself to also use something that is pleasant, something that you're able to lift your mind up into as a way of not experiencing the pain. I mean, in the normal world, lots of people, they distract themselves by watching something, listening to something, reading something. I mean, this also works. But and if not, you can also use Dhamma and teaching and good reflection and also meditation. Yeah, so meditation again can help to a certain degree to not cure, but to deal with the pain in a better way. But again, don't judge and don't try to do for really severe things. Try what you can, but it is possible, is what the Buddha is saying. So it depends on each individual, their level of meditation, development of the right view, and where they're at the spiritual path, but it is possible. So it's worthwhile building this up in preparation for the pain that is yet to come as well. So for people who are at the moment in good state, don't think that you're never going to have them. Do the practice, whatever you're doing, whatever you're building up is going to be helpful to be able to deal with these recent painful feelings a bit better. So this is interesting, something that I wanted to share. And also, I wanted to go back to another interesting sutta. Okay, this is sutta number 2 of the same chapter. It's a very simple one, but I just wanted to bring up another interesting point. Because there are these 3 feelings. What 3? Pleasant feeling, painful feeling, neither painful nor pleasant feeling. These are the 3 feelings. Whether it is pleasant or painful, along with neither painful nor pleasant, both the internal and the external, whatever kind of feeling there is, having known this is suffering, perishable, disintegrating, having touched and touched them, seeing their fall, thus one loses one's passion for them. That's the verse. There's quite a lot in there, but one thing that I wanted to point out, maybe ask. When you say internal and external, ajatta and bahidda, what do you think that means? What do you think, Venerable Viveka? Good question.
Yeah,
internal and external. How would you like to interpret that?
Internal, external,
Pain.
painful feelings. Well, internal painful feelings, obvious.
which is the pain in your
Yeah.
body, yeah?
External painful feeling.
Mm.
Yeah, maybe when you see something you don't like, hear something you don't
It
like.
could be, yeah. Anybody else has any ideas on the world?
I don't see that much difference
But
between
there is.
internal and external.
But the Buddha says to see both internal and external, to be seen ajata and bahidda. And this comes up in the Satipatthana Sutta as well. And it's a very important point. Anybody else in the audience have anything to say in the room? Thinking. Okay. All right. So the interesting part, this is also coming up in another sutta. I'll tell what it was, how the Buddha mentioned. So the Buddha mentions, just this is something else to consider, the power to bring up the power of this statement. And that is, the Buddha says that each one of us, we are subject to sickness. We haven't gone beyond sickness. That's a reflection to be had. It's not only about sickness. The Buddha says we are subject to old age, we are subject to death, we are subject to sickness, all of those things. And we haven't gone beyond sickness. And then the Buddha says, it's not only me, other people are also subject to old age, subject to sickness, subject to death. They have also not gone beyond. So when you see it's not only you, but also other people, that makes a difference, because we have the tendency to be self-focused. My pain, I am suffering, and it seems like I am the only one suffering and in pain in the whole world, and it becomes unbearable. But when we realize pain, whether it's physical pain or mental pain, it is common to everybody. Once born in the world, pain is something we cannot escape. Yeah, it is common. So is my anger or my anxiety or my sadness different to yours or to anybody else? Sadness is sadness. Anger is anger. Anxiety is anxiety. And everybody who has not yet become fully enlightened experience these things. So sometimes it's good to see that. It is helpful to understand. It is helpful to also see, to turn away from this coming again and again, because once born, it's not just only for you. Once born, everybody has to experience these things. So seeing that external pain, in the sense, when I get a sickness, a very special kind of sickness, sometimes there are very, very rare sicknesses, but still, you're not the only one who has it. Yeah, you're not special. Every other people also has it. So other people also goes through this. But seeing that different perspective, not only us, but others, also brings up a certain compassion, a certain wisdom, a certain understanding, a different perspective. And that is also helpful. It is insightful as well.
Including the animal realm.
Exactly, the animals suffer enormously. They can't explain, they can't tell what they want and
Can't
don't
help.
want, can't help even, yeah. And so with the case with even human beings, and sometimes they are stuck in a situation, maybe in a coma, where they can't speak, they can't, express themselves, but they might be going through some kind of difficulty. They can't even tell another person. So even in the human realm, this can happen, and it is difficult. But when we understand the external and the internal, it broadens our understanding. It is helpful insight, and this is why it is coming up here. So internal and external is not to just focus on your own problem, to understand it is universal problem, and this is what happens when we are born.
Existence.
So this is very helpful to overcome bhavatanha. So that is why this is there. So based on that very painful feeling, based on it, you can turn it around as you grow in your practice, as you grow in your wisdom, to also end birth in all realms, to end that bhavatanha, which is very important, because what keeps us in this existence is three kinds of craving, right? Kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. And kama tanha is those desires and wantings in the sensual world, all those sensual pleasures, right? And bhava tanha is wanting to exist in order to experience more and more. But when we actually reflect, whenever we have any kind of painful feeling, which is every day we have all kinds of painful feelings, right? When it's not about the special times when we are really sick or have some really very strong painful feeling. Painful feelings are there all the time throughout the day from time to time, not all the time, but they come and they go. But each time to see them, understand them, see the problem of existence is also a very helpful way to build up that perception, which is called Sabba Loke Anabhirata Sanya, non-delight in the entire world. It's a very helpful perception because these perceptions is what eventually gets you enlightened. They fall under the category of Nibbedika Bhagya Sanya. So they are perceptions that brings up insights. That awakens your mind. So this is why it is so very helpful when you do have painful feelings, or this is not only for painful feelings, for all the pain, all the feelings, to know it is internal and external. Yeah.
And also to reflect on karma.
Yeah, of course, karma is what brings, yeah,
Yeah.
pain exactly is
Exactly,
karma.
yeah,
That
yeah.
is how karma is
Mm.
felt, so that is important. But also here, the other thing is, like we discussed this point last time as well, having touched again and again, yeah, seeing their fall and seeing that, that is why it is important. Sometimes we only see it coming. We never pay attention to the ending, right? This is very common. When we have a headache, we only remember when we had the headache. We've forgotten about when the headache has gone, tummy ache, whatever it is. We suffer, we complain, we remember the time when it came. By the time it goes, we never thanked, we are never grateful, we never notice it. We are on to the next thing, get carried away. When the pain is gone, spiritual path is also forgotten, and we go singing, dancing, and having a jolly good time sometimes. Isn't that the case? Yes. People remember the spiritual path when there is pain, when there's some kind of
When
suffering,
there's trouble.
when there is trouble. When everything goes well, it's very easy to forget everything and go away. But that is why it is so very important to notice the time when the pain goes as well. So this requires quite a degree of mindfulness. So if you tell, I'm going to be very mindful next time, I'm going to notice next time when my little headache goes away. Try with small things. It gives you really good understanding about physical body and its pains and its difficulties, and it's helpful. Then you don't get so upset when they come, especially those things that repeatedly come. For those of us who have digestive problems, you don't know what you eat and what's going to cause you some problem. And if you're going to cry and weep and beat your breast every time, what a miserable life you're going to live.
And not trying to push it away because you
Yeah.
can't.
Exactly. So
You have to push it
accepting.
to see the end, the natural ending.
Exactly. To
Yeah.
notice it is so very helpful. Though that's why I said, especially when you do it at the time of meditation with some kind of that medium range pace that you can do, it gives you confidence. It gives you that incredible confidence to get rid of the mental arrow, to be able to stay with it with a good attitude, in a good way. You're not waiting for it to go, you're just allowing it to be, and it will change at some point. It can get better or it can get worse, but either way, just know, even it got worse, it'll get better afterwards.
And also to see it as non-self.
Yeah, exactly. It's conditionally arisen. These things are conditionally arisen, just like the lamp with the oil and the wick. When they go away, the contact ends, the pain ends. So these, even though you might think kind of, a bit remote or whatever, it's not. It's in your day-to-day life. This is what the Buddha says. Pay attention to these things. We are so busy, carried away thinking about all kinds of nonsense, right? Throughout the day, about politics or who did what to who, and all this really useless chatter that goes in your mind. Instead of that, try and pay attention to all kinds of feelings because we are constantly experiencing. So we are constantly having feelings of all kinds, painful feelings, pleasant feelings, neutral feelings. Get in tune. It's a fascinating world. Your day will never be so boring and be so exciting and insightful way. It's exciting, but insightful at the same time. So this is where clear comprehension comes up, because in another sutta, the Buddha very beautifully says that as well, because I think we read that last time. Uh, and I'm just going to remind it again. It's in Sutta number 3, verse number 4, who says, "But when a bhikkhu who is ardent does not neglect clear comprehension, then that wise man fully understands feelings in their entirety." So, sati sampajanya. So that is really important. So this is what we were saying, because the Buddha says in the previous one, touching them again and again means when you are experiencing these pains, because they keep coming, they repeat, right? So as you see, and as you see their rise, and as you see their fall, means they are going away, with mindfulness and understanding, with right view, that is when eventually that mental arrow, that mental part of the suffering is going to subside. It is going to happen. You have to keep doing this very simple work. It's a very kind of primary school kind of activity, but even though it looks like a primary school activity, it brings incredible results, including your enlightenment. Yeah, because like we said the other time, I mean, I can read that first verse again from the Sutta number 1. A disciple of the Buddha, mindful, concentrated, comprehending clearly, understands feeling and the origin of feeling, where they finally cease, and the path leading to their destruction. With the destruction of feeling, a bhikkhu is hungerless and fully quenched. That's another way of saying fully enlightened. So it's understanding, feeling that you get enlightened. So it's not a small thing. So whatever little practice you do, so practice is not only when you sit cross-legged and try to watch your breath or do your satipatthana or vipassana or all kinds of things. These are also even in the day-to-day life, you can just see. So it is not very powerful as when you have a sharp mind that coming after samadhi. But even that day-to-day thing still helps you to bear up with difficulties much better.
And also not to get stuck in fatalism, but you see, we have a choice.
Exactly.
You
We
know,
have
that
a
is like
choice.
that is the
Yeah.
strength of the Buddha's teaching. We have a choice.
We have a choice, because some people think that I have to be miserable for the rest of my life. There's nothing to be done with this. Then if that is the case, enlightenment is not possible. There is something to be done, and that is to understand it. So it's also very, very important that the difference between the Buddha's path and the way that was being enlightenment was tried off by others is that they try to sort of push away or subside or sort of eliminate feeling, which we can do as well. What they do is we are able to sort of block off, shut down contacting. We are good at it as well, and it is in fact a coping mechanism that we have learned through samsara, because when pain becomes too unbearable, we just shut down. This happens. Yeah, so this is a coping mechanism, but that can lead to difficulty later on, but so it is going to be difficult to deal with it. This is going to come gradually on the path, but the difference in the Buddha's teaching is it is not about overcoming pain in that way by getting rid of it or suppressing it. It is by understanding it. Very important point. So pain or suffering is not ended through by suppressing it or pushing it away. It is removed or overcome by understanding, parinyaya, yeah, by understanding it, by understanding. So in order to understand pain, you have to observe it. You have to see it coming. How did it arise? The time that it goes away, understanding the contact, understanding its ending, understanding how you give attention to, because you're interested, because you're concerned about your body. That is why you constantly keep contacting that pain. So when you contact, it's a form of wanting. That craving is what gives that attention to that contact, and that contact is kept up and the feeling is kept up. So it's kind of interesting when you start to see what you're doing, how you're contributing to continue your pain, and how you can take a step back and allow those physical things to subside. When you get out of the way, when you are not interfering, the physical body has incredible abilities on itself, of itself, to cure. Yeah, it has. It's us and our mind sometimes getting in the way of the process of curing. Yeah, the body has incredible chemicals as well to cure our body. It knows how to do these things. Even cortisol, which we can get as an injection, is produced by our body. If we don't interfere, they will come in and help you. But so that is where it is really important, when our mind is taken care of, if the mind can become peaceful. In fact, even if we can build up even joy states in the mind, that is incredibly helpful for the body to heal. So it is really helpful that we practice, and not to practice when we are in real incredible pain, but start beforehand, right? Don't wait till you have incredible pain to start your spiritual journey. Start when you don't have it. So that is also why this external and internal is important. Maybe you don't have cancer yet, right? But you have seen and heard about people with cancer already and the incredible pain they go through. So you can prepare for the cancer that is going to come to you, right? Or any other kind of sickness that you have not had yet. But when you have seen others having it, knowing that you too have a body and you too could get there, so you start preparing, building up your mental muscle beforehand. And this is so helpful, so very important. Yeah.
And also sometimes by pushing it away, you're making it worse.
Absolutely, because that negativity of the mind, that ill will, that is the cause of pain. So acceptance always makes it easier. Yeah, no matter how much that you have to build it up, it's really hard to develop acceptance. Yeah, it's the same like the difficult person or painful feelings. They have difficulty in accepting. But these are the things that we need to develop. So this is how we also have that metta coming up, right? That's how the metta is helpful for these things. Anyway, lots of stuff has been said. So I think I am going to just stop here for today's session on feelings. So any questions?
First of all, I think we should say sadhu, sadhu kam tadamase, sadhu, 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 anumodami.
And Rubas, would you like to add something or say something with regards to this?
To pain.
Yeah, or pleasant food,
Pleasant
whatever it
feeling.
is. It's about pain, but it's mostly.
Well, I was thinking, so one thing I find useful when I have pain is to kind of, I guess, in a way, feel the connection to other beings who are also in pain, like to feel, oh, I suffer and I feel the suffering of others. That sense of connection helps me to just open my heart to the suffering of humanity. And
So compassion comes
yeah,
up.
compassion comes
and that's
up.
a good way to
Yeah.
heal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
compassion for all beings
Yeah.
just like me who
Yeah.
feel this kind of pain. And yeah,
And this is for both physical and mental pain.
physical and mental pain.
Very helpful,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
So that
Yeah.
internal and external and connecting and bringing up compassion to oneself and others. That's really beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
I have one more thing to say. I'm also grateful for pain, because without pain, I would not start a spiritual journey. If everything is fine, you just,
Get carried away.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
And also to be careful not to be artificially mentally fine. To really as much as you can, we can't always do it fully, but as much as we can, to face reality. because that will spur us onto our spiritual journey. I think you have covered so many points. It was very wonderful too. Again, sometimes you need to be reminded what it is all about.
So people online are welcome to put into the chat, and anybody on the floor, anything to add? Anything you would like to say? Nothing? It's the second day, so
We agree that we are all suffering.
yes, that is very true. Yes, yes. So it is to be applied to all levels. And I will apologize in case you were trying to find a good solution for your incredible difficulties. But it is actually there in those suttas, but maybe not immediately applicable. Like I said, it is a gradual path, but it gives you hope. Yeah, it gives you hope that through developing your spiritual path, building up your mental muscles, building up your right view is going to be helpful. Yeah. Okay, there are no questions from people online. Either they are completely satisfied or completely disappointed. Yeah, it's a big subject actually. Even to for dependent origination, that link, it's coming from contact comes feeling, and from feeling goes to craving, and all of that. So feeling is a very, very important key point to understand, and a point that we try to run away or run towards, depending on whether it's pleasant or painful. We keep running, back and forth between these two and get stuck. But by understanding, that's also that Majje Sutta, the Buddha talks about one end and the other end, and not getting stuck in the middle as well, which is the peaceful. That is how you sort of end all of these things as well.
And also to reflect that there's an end to it. The Buddha showed us the way out.
Yeah.
So we can, even if we're not quite there yet, but there is a way out, never to forget that, even in the worst of circumstances, that the Buddha showed us there's a way out.
Yeah. Okay, then thank you everyone for joining us, and let's see you all next time. Maybe next time a different topic. I think we're done with pain for the time being.